foundation micro. That foundation micro.
Oh, geez, I have the stream audio on. Worst opening ever! Oh, geez, I have the stream audio on. Worst opening ever. Oh, wow, that was a painful opening. I had the stream open in like 4 different windows and didn't realize it until we went live. So apologies for that, and welcome to episode 14 of Esports Canada TV. I'm your host, John Quinn, at Quinn of the Net. Please follow me on Twitter, and as well follow my other co-hosts at ESC Songers, Nick Song. How you doing tonight, Nick?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good.
Sick wave, bud. And our other host at ESC Jovian. Welcome to the job market, Frank. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well. It's been over a week now, so not so much welcome. Been here for years, John.
It's good to get you off the streets finally, Frank. Tonight we have 2 very special guests, 2 big players in the Esports Canada scene, not our Esports Canada scene, but the Canadian esports scene. We have from Edmonton, Mitchell McPherson. Mitchell, how are you doing this evening?
Doing really well. Glad to be on.
Fantastic. And from what I believe is Hamilton and or the GTA, somewhere in Ontario, the man of mystery, Taylor McLinden.
Hello, guys. What's up? And London. I'm moving in. Well, I'm all over the place. I'm in London, Ontario right now. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No problem. Thank you. All right. So I guess how we'll get started is just have you each introduce yourself and maybe talk about what it is you do exactly in the great world of Canadian esports. And Mitchell, I think we'll start with you first.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'm Mitchell. I go by the alias Gofarman. If you know me, you'll know both. I'm not too picky about one or the other. What do I do? I've been involved with the Edmonton scene in greater area, Alberta and BC. A lot of people know me in the area. First running tournaments, and then once the community stepped up and we had more people doing that kind of stuff, I stepped back from that and I work with our local LAN center, and I manage a team with them. We're just all amateur guys playing games and looking to get into the team league in the coming year. But yeah, that's mostly what I do. Just to shout outs to some of the other Edmonton alumni. Jacqueline Geller now works at Blizzard. She came up through us, and Prodigy, Fake Steve, yeah, all those guys in Edmonton. So yeah.
Fantastic. And Taylor.
Yeah, so my name's Taylor. I'm living in London, Ontario right now, but I go to school at the University of Guelph. I'm actually born in the Niagara region, so you guys are probably familiar down in St. Catharines. I don't really do much in esports anymore. I'm mostly a fan. I watch a crap ton of StarCraft 2 and a little bit of League of Legends, but I used to be an esports journalist or I did online coverage for a variety of teams. I goes way back, actually. Thinking about it, it's crazy. I started with Check 6 Gaming, which had a StarCraft squad. You might know them from that, but unfortunately it's shut down. So I started with Check 6 back in 2005, just as a journalist covering their Counter-Strike team, their Quake teams, their Warcraft 3 players, things like that. Did the similar thing with X3O Gaming, which is another American team that mostly covered Counter-Strike. And then I moved on to SK Gaming, where I was kind of a jack of all trades for all their North American stuff. So I did coverage. That's usually what people know me from is on SK. So I mainly covered their Counter-Strike stuff. They had a female Counter-Strike 1.16 that was mostly American, so I covered them. And then StarCraft 2 came out, the beta, so I started doing some stuff on SK for that. And then they hit about 2010, and I finished up my undergrad down in Niagara region, started grad school at Guelph, and I'm like, I don't have time to do this volunteer stuff anymore, so I kind of took a step back and I just watch now. So I tweet about everything, well, usually StarCraft stuff, and yeah, I'm just a big fan of esports now, and I'm loving what you guys are doing with you helped with NASL, but with Esports TV Canada and everything else. So I caught on to you guys, and now I'm just a fan like you guys, watching the games.
Awesome. We are all fans. That's why we are here. Mitchell, how did you get started in the Edmonton scene? Was it something that you kind of brought up on your own, or was it you and a group of friends got together and said, hey, I'm tired of playing in my basement sort of thing, let's take this to the streets? How did that all get started?
Well, there's a couple catalysts to make it happen. One, I was aware of the Brood War scene in Edmonton. I'd heard of them before. My younger brother was a decent player. He was C-ish Terran, so he could put up some good games. But because of that, I was aware of people like Fake Steve and Team Liquid and other bigger names. So when the beta came out, we rushed to get into that immediately, and we're quite lucky in it. I managed to sell off all of my value in another game for someone to give me a beta key. So I got into that like 2 weeks in, and then we played that just constantly. And so we never really thought about doing tournaments in Edmonton, but 3 days after the game came out, so the game came out on a Tuesday, and that weekend there was Fragapalooza, which some of you might know historically. They were pretty big Counter-Strike tournament. You had like EG coming down, Canadian, when they were Canadian Counter-Strike team, and they'd win it most years. And so Fragapalooza held a StarCraft tournament. It was just a couple days after StarCraft was released, and it was probably the worst experience I've ever had with StarCraft. The admin had no idea. He was a Team Fortress player. He didn't know how to work the game. He didn't know anything about it, and they weren't interested in getting help. They were very confident that they were doing it correctly, and they weren't. Like, for example, I fell out of the top 16 because I didn't beat my opponents fast enough. And that seems ridiculous now, but that's how they broke tiebreakers, by how fast you finish the game. And so in 2 of my 4 matches that I played, the guys didn't leave immediately because they were new players and they didn't know better. And because of that, I didn't end up proceeding through the tournament. And so that was like my first really poor experience with that admin. And so that made my mind turn a lot about if I could do it better, and I was pretty confident I could. So that was like one of the big catalysts. And then a guy saw that was in a fighting game community. He was a Street Fighter player, and he'd been running Street Fight tournaments for like 3 years in Edmonton. So figured he'd hold an Edmonton one, just an Edmonton StarCraft tournament, and they had 50 people show up. And so that was like maybe a month or 2 after the game release, and that was the best experience I've ever had with StarCraft. Then I've had the worst and the best, and from then on, like, I helped with him for a lot of stuff, and eventually he was too busy. Like, he's got 2 kids, and he was too busy to do the StarCraft stuff. So I just eventually took it over and ran that for a year and maybe a little more than a year, monthly event. Just cash in. We played a LAN center, and then cash out to the top 3, top 4 players. Yeah, and that was a lot of it was really successful. But what it achieved was it built a really tight community in Edmonton, independent of the big names. We didn't have Fake Steve because he wasn't liking StarCraft 2. We didn't have Chill because he's in Calgary. So because of that, we were able to build a really tight community. And when the LAN center closed, we didn't go away. We stuck around, and then another LAN center opened, and it really helped a lot. So yeah, mostly just how I've got to do things. Just I saw people doing stuff, and I thought I can do it better, and so I helped, or I did it better. And because of that, it's put me in a position where I can, like, eventually other people are like, I think I'm going to do it better than you, and I'm like, yeah, please do it. I want you to. So then they take
the
it
passing
over,
of the
and I
torch.
stand back. Exactly, and then I go on to do something else that I've wanted to do for a year, and then they get to do what they want to do. So it works really well. The community has been able to foster like talent growing through. We haven't actually put out any really good players, but we have some guys from Calgary that like to come down and take our money, so that helps a lot too. Yeah.
We have people like that here as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Screw those guys.
MK Engine and some of the other guys from Clarity are all local boys. Yeah.
Nice. Along the same line for you, Taylor, how did you get into the journalism side of esports so many years back?
Well, I used to, this is going to take way back, people who know anything about Check 6 Gaming. They were an America's Army team way back in 2003, 2004, and I played that game with some kids in my high school. So Check 6 and this AA, we called it, it's a first-person shooter, was like the be-all, end-all for the top professional team. So I was playing these games, and then I was getting more serious about school. High school was finishing up, and I started playing less and less. and this is going to go back a ways too. MIRC was kind of like the community that gamers used to hang out on. Every popular team, professional team had a channel. And I wanted to be popular on the internet, but I wasn't putting in enough time to play. So I wanted to get the little @ sign beside my name in a big channel. So this is literally how I got into esports. I knew Check 6 from America's Army. I had some ins with them. I went on their MIRC channel and I said, do you guys need a journalist to cover Counter-Strike, which I also played with kids from high school. Counter-Strike 1.6. Never really got into Source, didn't really like it. So then I just started off with Check 6, trying to get famous, and I started writing articles, and people start to recognize you, and you get like mod status and other IRC channels, and from there I just kind of kept going. And then eventually MIRC kind of died out and everything else died out, and I realized, wow, this esports thing is absolutely incredible. These players are putting in so much time to be so good, and I saw it as more of an art than just, sitting in your basement playing all day. So it's kind of continued on from there, from 2005, like I said, through to X3O, through to SK, and then I kind of just followed the main esports titles, and yeah, it all dates back to that game that the U.S. government made to try to recruit soldiers or whatever, the first-person shooter, America's Army.
Yeah, I was going to ask. That was the one that they used to like train soldiers.
Exactly,
with,
yeah.
It was like the
That was the
propaganda
game.
game.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. That was it. So that's where it all started. Now I'm just following StarCraft 2. So from AA to Counter-Strike to a whole bunch of stuff in between, and then to StarCraft 2.
Great. So I'll ask a question. I'll put a general spin on it, and you can both answer it in different ways, especially with your given specialties. So the question for you first, Mitchell, will be, tell us some challenges that you had to overcome when organizing esports or spectating or playing events. And then the general spin, and on the flip side for you, Taylor, would be some challenges you've had to overcome in your journalism and covering esports events. So, Mitchell, if you would go first.
Trying to do too much. I think I've tried to. My first dream with this whole thing was to turn Western Canada into a powerhouse. Like, I really saw a lacking in the farm system, right? Like every other game that's professional, it has a farm system. It has steps that players can do. And it's not just you hit masters and then you have to grind for days and days and months, and then eventually you might get a chance. I wanted to give the guys an actual opportunity and something they could actually do to proceed through the thing. And so one of my first ideas, this is like almost 2 years old now, was Canadian Amateur StarCraft League. It managed to. I wanted to create a team in each city, of like each major city. So basically, more than 1 million people. And I was in talks with guys in Calgary, Vancouver, Regina, Winnipeg, all over Canada, trying to make this happen. And ultimately, it just came down to I don't have $10,000 to put into this.
Yeah.
And so after realizing that, I tried to scale it down and just do stuff with Edmonton, improve the model in Edmonton first, which is a lot of the why we have a StarCraft team in Edmonton, why we have these guys that they just they play with each other and they compete with each other at tournaments. But I managed to lose a lot of money on that. So that was one of my biggest hurdle that I've had to overcome to just stay in it and is realize your limitations.
Right.
And locate other people with like-minded ideas. People like, I'm going to forget names now because it's been such a long time, but Core from Calgary ran StarCraft Mecca. He got stuck in some really awkward positions, and Reddit, along with some other people, lambasted him for a lot of stuff that was out of his control. And he was awesome. I've talked to him for hours and hours, and he was always an awesome guy. Always wanted to get WCG into an actual thing that happened in Canada, rather than just a qualifier in Toronto, and the rest of Canada gets screwed over. And that's how us in the West have always viewed it. Toronto has this opportunity to do Toronto represents Canada, and we don't feel that's true. I mean, you can talk about politics, you can talk about a dozen other things, but
I feel your pain, Mitch, from the East Coast.
So that's just how
you think you guys get screwed over.
Wow.
John's from Atlanta, Canada. Just
I mean, at least you're within 10 hours of driving.
14.
So yeah, well, that's
how far a drive is it?
That's like us to Vancouver.
Okay.
Vancouver. So.
Okay.
Yeah. It sucks, but So we've always wanted to try to achieve something in our local area that could turn into something. And so seeing that, trying to do it, and failing again and again has been just, enormous hurdles. We tried to work with Fragapalooza, but they've never been interested. A lot of their guys were competitive in Counter-Strike, and their view of competitive players from that scene has tarnished any ability for us to work with them, because every single event, if they hold an FPS tournament, they have fights. It's just, for some reason, people like to fight. So they don't give any other community a chance, even though we're not like that.
Yeah, that is a tough thing. With the whole kind of esports boom of the past couple of years, it's kind of whoever was there first. Like Tastos has always talked about it, like we planned ahead and we were just the first casters there in Korea, just ready for this game to launch. We were ready to cast it and whatnot. So it's kind of, the first people that are there at that moment to do it. If they do awesome, they're going to become really popular and successful. If they screw it up, they don't just screw it up for themselves. They screw it up for everyone behind them who's going to come along and say, hey, I can do this job. Well, the last guy said that too, and now look where we are. So that's precisely the issue you have with a lot of the legacy companies and different people involved in it for the last 10 years. They see the pedigree that have come through, and they're not impressed, and so they don't give people a fair shake anymore, which is, I can't blame them, but it's incredibly heartbreaking to see. You want to achieve something and you just can't. But I think the thing that's kept me going the most is seeing like people like Prodigy with ESVTV and Jacqueline Geller. She was with ESFI, eventually got hired by Blizzard. Like, that's the kind of stuff that keeps you going. So.
Yeah, for sure. So Taylor, the similar question, of course, challenges you've overcome, especially in your esports journalism or covering events.
So I would say actually in terms of online esports journalism, not so much, going to events, getting your foot in the door just to do online coverage is pretty easy. Most organizations are, if you're going to volunteer for, a headset or a keyboard or something, they'll take anybody in. You don't have to have a journalistic background or anything like that. Even starting with Check 6, I was 2005. I would have been, grade 11, grade 10, 11 or something in high school. I didn't have any. I didn't have any spelling errors in my application, so they didn't know I was only in grade 10 or 11. But it's pretty easy to get your foot in the door. Once you're in and you're putting in, it's a lot of hours. If you want to cover these events that are in all these different time zones, and your player, like say Check 6 had, at times they had 10, 15 divisions of players. They had 3 Counter-Strike source teams at one time, and they were the top 3 teams, and there are all these different events. Well, that's a big challenge, trying to cover all those events when there are all these different times, and you're doing it all for a headset. But I think the real challenge that I faced, and I actually think I kind of succumbed to, and it's the reason why I'm probably not more involved in esports today, is trying to get the compensation that you deserve, I guess. As an esports journalist, that's a big thing, because like I said, once you're in, you can volunteer you can go 5-6 years, and you can build yourself a resume. You can be accomplished in this field, and you can deserve maybe a flight or two to an event, or you put in the time for a certain team. Maybe they should give you maybe $500 for 12 months of work or something. And I think the biggest challenge is getting the compensation that you deserve once you've earned it. And you don't want to walk in the door saying, okay, I'll volunteer for a month, and now I want you to fly me to MLG or something. I put in my time. I volunteered for teams from 2005 until 2010, and in total, I was never flown to any events. And I just made a Facebook page, and I posted a bunch of old interviews I did that I had saved on my computer. And I was surprised. Like, I've interviewed over 10, all 15, 20 players over the years. All these things that it's one of the getting the compensation you deserve. And then 2 is, once you actually say a team offers you maybe an EG or a Complexity who's got a lot of money behind them to fly you to events. I think as a journalist, the big thing is kind of building the confidence up to say, okay, I'm at MLG, now let me get my camera and go interview some players. Because you can get flown there and you can say, I'm just going to stay behind the scenes and I'm too intimidated to go talk to this person or that person. But once you're given the opportunity, a big challenge for esports journalism and journalists is to take that opportunity and do as much coverage as you can and put yourself out there. Because even Thomas, who was on the show, or the Wizard last week or 2 weeks ago, he's a perfect example of somebody who, took the bull by the horns, and he said he's been involved in esports for a little over a year, and he's already at events interviewing players, things like that. And a lot of people aspire to get involved with esports, and they want to, build a name for themselves and get involved with the scene. But you kind of have to take the approach that the Wizard did with ESFI and just, find an organization that will support you, get you out there, and then get yourself in front of the camera and learn that way. And it's something that I never got to that point because I didn't even succumb the first hurdle of getting those kind of offers. But once you get those kind of offers to go to events, I say, put yourself out there and kind of jump over that blockade and make your name that way.
Did you find it kind of hard to be critical when you were covering events? I mean, if something wasn't kind of up to snuff compared to other events, was it hard to justify being critical of that when you were kind of just started out as a fanboy who was just, oh my god, I can't believe I'm here and doing this, and then an event flies you out or a team flies you out? Was it hard to kind of report on the bad stuff?
Yeah, actually, as a journalist, I went to ESWC 2008 with X3O. They're not around anymore, so I'm going to say they didn't fly me out. I flew myself out. And I think you're exactly right. The event, ESWC, it's one of those things, maybe you guys have attended events as well. Say you're at the event, you have a great day there, it's so exciting, you're excited to be there, and then you come home and you read Reddit, or you read some sort of forum, and you see people bashing the event, saying the coverage, the online coverage sucked, or the NASL sound guy, or whatever, all those things you hear, and then you kind of you get defensive even as a fan, like, oh, I was at that event, that was a great time, I was excited to be there, I wish people at home enjoyed it, so it's one of those weird things you get defensive. So even as a journalist, when I was at SWC and I was covering the event, and I was like, there's some hiccups going on here, but then I look over and I see Spawn from S-Gate Gaming, who's like a legendary Counter-Strike player, and I'm like, holy smokes, he's right here, and like all these kind of things. So I think you're right. I think especially when you're affiliated with a team, and say you're doing coverage for that team, it is tough to be critical as a journalist and as a person who actually isn't a journalist, because you don't have that kind of training to actually really delve deeper and to see what's going on. But you're right, you have to be critical because that's what people are looking for. But when you're there, you're fanboying so much over the players and the event and the experience itself that you don't want to go out there and call it an event for doing something wrong or doing something that's not up to par.
So Taylor, I do, before I go into the next question, I want to mention that the Wizard, Thomas Schiffer, is actually in chat, and he is responding to your conversation. So you can see what he has to say in response to you. But the next question I have, again, for both of you, and we'll do, again, a general spin, and you guys can answer it how you may. But in a conversation that Mitchell and I had earlier, Mitchell, you were talking about how there's this there's this not inbred. I was trying to think of words.
What do you think about this flow of inbred players in esports? Do you think it hurts?
There's this sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. Exclusivity to the StarCraft League. So CSL, I know Songers, you were saying that CSL is very exclusive, especially with the UT club that you champion.
Yeah, if you're in the CSL, and at least in a lot of universities, if you're not up to par with the level of players that they're expecting for their teams, it's really hard to be involved with the CSL community at all. Right? So, back to you.
There's like pockets of esports groups that are really exclusive. So my question for both of you is, how do we get more... Oh, see, I had the word breed in the document. That's why I said that earlier. How do we breed more inclusivity in StarCraft esports communities? So, Mitchell, you can go first.
Well, in regards to CSL, like you have CSL, you have Barcrafts, those kind of things that build like the local communities, because that's really like the most effective way to do it. Get these guys in the same area and get them talking. They don't need to play the game. They don't need to have competitions. They just need to talk to each other, because we have so much in common with each other that naturally you build relationships with people you don't normally come in contact with. The amount of friends, the number of friends that I made through StarCraft, I wouldn't have made any other way. Just the simple fact we have that in common, we can discuss it as an icebreaker or however you want to discuss it. But with that said, a lot of the people that I'm friends with are some of the guys that I shouldn't say hang out with most, but some of that I've built like the most the strongest relationships with, they're not 18 years old. They couldn't go to a Barcraft. They're not in college. I would have never met them if I was going to the U of A playing in CSL. And these guys are incredible competitors, and they're incredible volunteers, and they want to be involved. Like we talk about Taylor, he started when he was in grade 11. He couldn't have been to a Barcraft that's 18 plus. He's not in college yet. He can't be involved in that. So these communities that are built around the CSL or the Barcrafts, they're not inclusive, and so you need to get away from that. As much as they're good microcosms, like Edmonton has 3 CSL teams. We have Grant MacEwan, we have U of A, we have Concordia, I believe. All 3 of them, they have CSL teams. They're all independent. They all talk to each other, and they're these groups of people that play. And some from every single one of those groups come together, and we meet weekly or monthly at our LAN center. Because our LAN center is inclusive. Anybody can go there. It's open 7 days a week. It's open during the day. It's open at night. Like, finding a gathering point for people to meet at that is an inclusive area. And so we've always been lucky that we've had these tournaments and a LAN center that'll support us really strongly. And because of that, our community has been able to reach people that it wouldn't otherwise. So that's like one of the ways that we can do it is just find a local meeting point that people can have. Maybe it's McDonald's by the bar. We've actually had them when there's a Barcraft, there's a McDonald's nearby, they have free Wi-Fi. A couple of guys will take their laptop down there and they'd watch StarCraft in there because the kids that are 16, 17, they can't come into the bar. And so that's the kind of stuff that we've done reactionarily to the exclusivity of the different events. But I think the most powerful thing is using a LAN center, and that's like you look at the Korean model. One of my biggest fans for Brood War was Super Daniel Man. He's in the GOM Classic, cast with Tasteless, and he was a huge critic of how GOM was launching StarCraft 2 in Korea. Because of that, you don't hear about him anymore. He doesn't get Korean publicity. He runs a LAN center. That's what he always talked about, how Brood War became big in Korea because of the social aspect of it. It wasn't a spectacle at first. It became a spectacle when you have people like Gur and Boxer and Nada and Yellow and all the rest of the greats. But it first became a pastime. That's what people did. They played StarCraft. And out of that grew the great dynasty, or whatever you want to call it. But the first thing people need to focus on is the social aspect. And I'm not very good at it. There's tons of people in Edmonton that are better than me, and they take a lot more head on this. But that's how it should be done. And I'm reading in chat, they just don't order alcohol. Some bars do that, right? But some bars don't. They just don't let you in. Yeah, and in Alberta, that's how it is. You can't get into a bar unless you're ID'd.
Yep.
Right.
I've ran into the same problem running Barcrafts here, and our age is 19 too. So I mean, right before the event, I have 5, 6, 7, 8 kids emailing me, messaging me, saying, "Hey, I'm only 17. Can I get in?" And I said, "Well, a popular thing to get into bars underage is using a fake ID. Not that I'm promoting that." And they're just like, ha ha ha, okay. And I'm like, seriously, go see this guy on this street. Bring $30 and a picture.
See Bill, he gives good deals.
Yeah. No, but I've heard Day9 go on about that as well, where he's saying high school leagues are something that need to happen to get the players involved when they are young and to provide that infrastructure to have them playing. I mean, when you have games like League of Legends where it's free and the specs for your computer, they don't need to be anything ludicrous, right? So, I mean, you have a free game that basically play on any computer. Obviously, kids are going to gravitate to that because of the social aspect. When you can get all of your friends together and play that, compared to the one guy in your group of friends who has a computer good enough of playing StarCraft and the $60 to go and buy it. So, having some sort of infrastructure of a high school community could really benefit the grassroots.
Yeah, I've worked with some businesses that have tried to do that in Edmonton, and there's a lot of pushback. People don't like computer games.
Yeah, the stigma, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just to shout out Oodle Noodle, Edmonton. they have a couple franchises now. These guys, they run OilersNation.com, and they've always been, a couple of them are fans of esports, and they work with us a lot, and they try to help us as much as possible. But I mean, even a business backing you public schools is a totally different beast. It's not like soccer. There's money in everything nowadays. So yeah, it's high school leagues are the best. If we could do that, that would be incredible. Mm-hmm. But to get there, I think it's going to take years and years of active. It's not going to be something that just happens.
Agreed.
So, Taylor, you actually dropped out a little bit because of your computer woes, but a little bit of a recap. Mitchell was talking about creating a space that is accessible, like innately. So, like having bar crafts where kids who are too young can't access it. That's not getting that inclusivity you need. So, how do you feel about how can we bring more inclusivity into StarCraft communities and esports?
Well, first, I'll apologize. It's crazy. You spent $1,300 to build a gaming computer like 5 months ago, and it can't even hold up with the Skype conversation. So
yeah, you screwed up my overlays.
Yeah, I can believe it's one of those things where I pop back in, and my face is probably like off in the corner or something.
It was off.
Yeah, inclusivity. I don't even really know. To be honest, I'm pretty involved with following the games and knowing the pro players and the people involved with the scene in general, particularly StarCraft. And even I am not that I feel I'm kind of on the outside a little bit when it comes to the bar crafts and the other ways people can get together. I've never even attended a bar craft myself, and I'm sure there's been one in Toronto or even maybe even London. I'm not even sure. But in terms of increasing inclusivity for fans and people in the CSL, they can't get involved if they're not one of the top players or one of the big names for their college or the university. Maybe to start, we have to just maybe, this is a pretty simplistic answer, but just advertise the events more, and then it won't seem so exclusive if you show up to a bar craft and you say maybe 7 or 8 young kids can't get in. But if you have such a huge force of people, say have 500 people show up to a bar craft, maybe those 7 or 8 kids, if the bar can get business off of 500, maybe the bar will figure out some sort of way where they'll have a non-drinking area or something like that. I don't know if it's so much about trying to fix all the small things right now, but we just got to blow this whole bar craft and social atmosphere of esports up more, because it's come a long way since I started. But still, if somebody like me hasn't even heard, well, if I go on Team Liquid, they're on there, but if you don't go on Team Liquid, where do you hear about them? So maybe in the local newspaper or something like that. If we just expand the whole social community in general, and there'll be bumps and bruises along the way, and there'll be people being left out. But if a bar, like I said, is going to get 500 people to come in and order drinks and buy food to watch a StarCraft game, and there's 50 kids that can't get in, they're going to try to fix the problem and get people in. So I would just say promote these kind of things more and make the group as a whole bigger. And then hopefully that'll fill the gaps for the other people trying to get in that are meeting restrictions or roadblocks.
Yeah, you touched on a good thing there with the skill gap, where it's hard running tournaments. I mean, we ran into this on the weekend with the Fiber Op Gaming League, where you invite all these different players sign up, but then they see that Masters and Grandmaster players have signed up, so they don't even bother playing, right? And so you run a tournament where people only want to watch the high-level play, but people only want to play in it when it's low-level play. And so it's kind of just like, how do you run a tournament that's going to be successful both from a player standpoint and an audience sponsorship standpoint? So I've run into that running tournaments locally, and I'm sure, Mitchell, you've run into that too, trying to get people to come out when they just say, I'm in silver, I'm in gold, what's the point?
Yeah, that's really, they are the bankroll. If you can pull those guys in, everyone else benefits. I mean, maybe they don't, but if you can bring value to that, to the experience, right? I'm relatively active on Reddit, but just one post that I saw the other day, these guys trying to run a casual event, and I mean the format's terrible, but that's irrelevant. They're doing Swiss groups, 10-man groups, and then the top 4 from each group get something. But it's neither here nor there. An event like that is a good idea. You're not really creating a champion. there's always two sides to everything. You're not creating a champion, so there's not really a downside to not winning. But on the same sense, there's still competitive players, and they want to win. That's their goal. They want to be the best. They want to take that money home, or whatever the prizing is. And so it's almost impossible to cater to both at the same time, right? Like, unless you can create a really incredible atmosphere, like an NASL, where you bring the best players in and everyone else comes just to watch. And that's, I mean, it's okay. It hits a need, but it's not going to. I'm getting a little off topic, but regardless, I'll just stop.
No, I think you were right there. NASL, we need those events because we don't get those events in Toronto or in Canada, where bigger companies from outside, the ones that tour around, the MLGs and the NASLs and DreamHack, obviously they're not going to come over to North America anytime soon, but they do have the sponsorship or the partnership with MLG, so maybe they will. But to have that event like a DreamHack where it is the spectator portion, but there's also, it's kind of that open free land portion, we don't really get that too much here.
Yeah, I mean, like, you have, I think IEM Edmonton might be the last thing that was held on the West Coast, or the West area of Canada, and that was 2009 is my guess. And that's before the current circle, but I wasn't even involved at that point. I know some guys in Edmonton that played in that event. They were Counter-Strike players, and they got trashed by EG. They got trashed by all the best players at the time, and they loved it. They didn't care because they were playing those guys, right? And so, in a certain thing, there's the draw. If the player's good enough, losing to him is no shame, right? Like, if you can, in Dallas, Noni's not there anymore, but in Dallas, if you could pull out Noni, or if you could get in, you could pull the EG guys down into the Phoenix tournaments. People don't mind losing against them because they have the experience is enough, right? So, like, meeting a good player is gonna, like, if I could get Noni to Edmonton, I'd get 100 people at my event. Doesn't matter that Noni's gonna win. Well, actually, he might not, but
I wasn't gonna say
regardless. People want to see those guys, right? And I'm there's no way that I can't pay Noni $2,000 to come to my tournament, right? Like, I can't, it's not within means.
No.
But that's the kind of stuff. The spectacle draws a lot of people, and they'll pay for that. But in the same sense, if it's all spectacle, then eventually it gets old. So, yeah.
That's funny you talk about experience, because I remember at NASL when Liquid Brett was there, like, a day or two before, when we were still setting up, everyone was just, like, gathering around, just like, oh my god. And I was like, guys, I'm going to go and sit beside him and play. And I wasn't even playing against him, but I was just, like, sitting across from him, and I'm just, like, laddering on a silver account, just like, guys, I am playing across from Red right now. People on ladder just like, who is this? But it is that experience.
I have a question for Taylor here, actually. Recently, you went to China to cover for the Blizzard World Championship, and just to let you have a chance to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was the experience, and not only just going to the Battle.net World Championship, but going to China was quite a trip. I'd never even been outside of North America before. I've been to New York City and Chicago, and Toronto, I guess, is our big city around here. But then you walk into a place like Shanghai, and it's like, holy smokes, this city has got more people in it, like 26 million or something people in Shanghai. The population of Canada is 35 million. So
I'm just going to put pictures up on the screen there, Taylor, while you're talking.
Yeah, sure.
Some of the shots you took there.
I took a lot from the event, and then a couple in the city because I spent a few extra days there. But it was just an unreal experience. Walking into the venue, they held it They had the World Fair there a couple of years ago, where like all the countries in the world have like convention halls and stuff like that. So even walking into the venue, there's metal detectors, security. You put your bag through a thing. Like, compared to NASL Toronto, where you just walk in the door, like China does. That's just one small example. Does things a lot differently. So actually, the company Asus, the ROG, their gaming sub brand. I have a shirt up there because I got to support them a little bit. They actually gave me an all-expense paid trip out there through a contest I won to attend the BWC and to watch the StarCraft/WoW tournament. So all I had to do was make like a 1-minute video, and a couple other people. There's international contests. They had some region-specific contests. So I arrived there in Shanghai with a guy from Finland, a guy from Sweden, and then you guys might know Momin. Momin is a professional StarCraft player. He's from France. He's sponsored directly by Aces ROG, so he was there along with the French guy. We just walked in the doors of this event in China, and it blew me away because I'd only been to an ESWC in California, and then I went to NASL. So I walk into this venue, which is, I guess, comparatively, just because most of you have been to the NASL Season 3, it's probably about 7 or 8 of those convention halls big, and the StarCraft stage side with all the seats. I don't know if you guys watched the stream. I actually didn't even know what it looks like on the stream because I was there, but there was a crap ton of people. Yeah. So it was pretty cool walking in. The opening ceremony was awesome. You know, they had the drums going and all the players coming in with their flags and stuff like that. And initially when I won the contest and I looked more into it and I said, okay, what kind of players are here? You know, you look and you see some of the big names missing, some of the more popular players. But then if you go back and look through all the WCS qualifiers, like, you know, NASL had WCS Canada there, so Scarlet came out of that, and the Scarlet came out of the North American event. You see that all these players, like the Tasias and there's actually a lot of popular players that weren't there that probably would have drawn a lot more viewers, but they all got knocked out by everybody who was there. So that's one of the things I kind of wanted to point out, that these were the best of the best. You know, it's any given Sunday in StarCraft. Not to say Tasia couldn't have went there and won the whole thing, but you know, I fanboyed pretty big. You know, just seeing the players there, seeing the spectacle Blizzard had put on, and one of the disappointing things was, I don't know if it's been discussed on Reddit or on the streams, is that the player area, the entire where all the players were playing the games, besides the main stage, so you could see the players playing there, was in an entirely boxed off booth. So, you know, on NASL, you can walk up right to the player area and you can be 5 feet away from Hawk playing or from whoever playing, Hero playing, MC playing, and it's awesome. You can take pictures, you can hear their keyboards clanking. Whereas at this Blizzard event, the Battle.net World Championships, you were pretty lucky if you caught, you know, Grubby walking to the washroom or one of these players leaving this confined area. And I think maybe they did that because they thought the Chinese fans were going to be more aggressive or kind of hound the players while they were playing. It was actually quite the opposite. So there was maybe 10 times the seats at the BWC compared to NASL Season 3 finals in Toronto, and it was maybe a 10th as loud, even during the big matches. Like, I think NASL was special, though, because you had the Canadians singing the national anthem and all this stuff. It was pretty unreal. But the BWC, as a viewer experience there's still a lot of people. There was a lot of other things going on. There was, you know, I played Heart of the Swarm against Momin on a Chinese client, so I had no idea what half the units were because I couldn't even read the lettering. But the spectacle was pretty amazing. But from a pure esports viewer's perspective, like, you know, I like standing behind the players and, you know, you can see them pressing their keyboard. It wasn't the best. I would say NASL beat them out in that respect. But
I think that comes down to, I think, a cultural issue. Like,
exactly, yeah.
Like, even when we saw with Hero and his celebration at DreamHack, right? Just
they're much more reserved over there, and it translates throughout the entire country. Everything it's a much different vibe walking down the streets in a socialist or communist country. Even at the event, you could feel that you weren't in North America anymore, so that was quite the experience. But the event overall was, you know, exciting. A lot of Zerg and Protoss in the event, and the Terrans didn't make it. I wanted a Terran in the final. I think that would have helped the excitement of it all, but you know, they had all the big names there. I actually got a picture with Tasteless and Artosis, which was like the coolest thing ever, so that was pretty exciting. And they had some of the casters right out front. The fans were pretty docile, but they did get excited here and there. And I don't know how the online production was, but the lighting and everything else was absolutely spectacular and a great experience. So I'll just shout out to Asus one more time for flying me out there from Canada. They booked my flight like 5 days in advance, so that wasn't very cheap. So, you know, it was a 14-hour direct flight from Toronto to Shanghai, so it's not something I would have ever got to do otherwise on a grad student budget. So that was pretty incredible. And yeah, the event was not something I'm going to forget anytime soon. So it was pretty cool.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well,
congrats on winning that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
We are running a bit long, so I am going to shuffle things along. And before we get to my second favorite part of the show, I will give you guys a chance to do any shout-outs you need to, plug anything you're doing right now, anything coming up. Mitchell, if you want to go first.
sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Just want to thank you guys for having me on. It was good time to talk. I'm sure I'll catch you guys some later time. I just want to plug my team and the LAN center that we work with, Overclock Gaming Computers. It's in Edmonton. If you're there, they are like the best. Like if you've ever been to a LAN center, this one's better. It really is. Like, he puts so much work into it. It really is. And then Oodle Noodle, they make great food. We work with them a lot. No official sponsorship, but I feel indebted to them every time I talk to them because they're pretty awesome guys. And then I just want to shout out a couple of the guys on my team. OK Archaic, the captain, he's the brains behind it all starting up and going. And then OK Adept, he streams quite a bit on Twitch, and other guys, OK Sticks, and yeah, I mean, I could name them all, but I think I'll leave that there. Yeah, just thanks for having me on, and it's great talking to you guys.
No problem.
Thank
you
you.
can follow Mitch on his Twitter, right above his face there, at Mitch McP. Taylor, any shoutouts you want to do?
I'm just gonna have to reiterate what Mitch just said about what you guys are doing at Esports Canada, Esports Canada TV. Finally, we have some central hub and some governing body for what's going on up north here. We don't get many events up here, so maybe you guys can keep pushing to have another big one come to Toronto or maybe out to Edmonton. That'd be pretty cool. I want to shout
close
out
enough.
Vancouver. Vancouver would be probably more fans out that way. Shout out to Asus ROG for sending me to China. I got to do that. Absolutely incredible experience, one I'll never forget. And I just made a Facebook page, finally, to upload a bunch of my BWC pictures. So if you want, you can just type in facebook.com/Hydrolis. That's my Facebook page. There's some pictures from the BWC, some old pictures from events I've been to, and some old interviews I've done that you can no longer find online. Twitter's the same thing. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on, guys. It was awesome.
No
Thanks.
problem. Yeah, you guys should also become members of Esports Canada. We always need a LAN ops manager out of Alberta, Mitch, perhaps? Think about that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I have a lot of things I could say, but we don't have the time to go there. So.
Fantastic.
Spot.
Yeah, we are going to move on to the... We're waiting all night for this.
Oh, it's always anticlimactic when they actually hear the questions, though.
I just played a lightning
watched it
sound effect that
before.
I found online. It is the lightning round. You guys have obviously watched the show, all 13 episodes before this, so I won't bore you with the rules, but for our fans who are just tuning in for the first time ever, we have the lightning round, and these are 10 skill testing, physically draining questions. They will take you to hell and then back to hell, and then you have to fight Sephiroth, like Diablo, from the first and second combined. It's tough. Anyway, so we will bust into these. I'm going to ask you the same questions, and we'll probably follow the same format. Mitch, you can answer first, and then Taylor, you can answer after. If you can answer them as fast as humanly possible, that would be fantastic. Gentlemen, are you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Question number 1. Orange juice with or without pulp?
With
No pulp.
Ooh, that's 1-0 Mitch. Number 2. The worst superpower to have?
milk.
What?
I don't know what to say to that.
From a TV show, British TV show.
Oh, okay.
Pretty bad. Milk.
Taylor, follow up to that. You could go down 2-0.
Being an elastic man. Being elastic.
Wow, that sounds kind of awesome, though.
Yeah,
No,
that
you'd
sounds
be all
awesome.
loopy
For
and
the
just falling
ladies?
off.
No.
Oh.
Frank, get your mind out of the gutter. Point goes to Mitchell. He's up 2-0. Number 3. Worst thing to go wrong at a LAN?
Blizzard shuts your connection down. Had that happen.
Whoa.
Oh.
That's
That is
not
pretty bad.
The power going out. For a long time.
For a long time. All right, he followed it up with for a long time. I'm going to give that to him. 2-1, Mitch. Number 4. First ever console owned?
Myself, Xbox. Otherwise,
Atari.
just Nintendo.
Ooh.
Atari?
He brings in the retro.
Yeah.
It's gotta
That's
be.
It's 2-2. I'm sorry, Mitch. He brings in the retro. Number 5. Favorite esports event or league?
favorite. MLG. That's a hard question.
You sound so confident about that. Taylor, follow up.
It doesn't exist anymore, but CPL back in the early days of esports.
Never heard of it. Point goes to Mitch. 3-2. Number 6. If I
Never
wasn't
heard of
doing
CPL?
esports in Canada, if I wasn't doing esports in Canada, I would be doing it in.
Nowhere. Canada's my country.
Wow, Taylor, you either have to respond with that exact same answer.
I think living in Sweden would be cool, and DreamHack, so Sweden.
4-2, Mitch. Number 7. Favorite players.
John, you're so hard, man. You're so hard on our guy.
Favorite players. One from each race.
Noni, QXC, and Zerg. MK Engine from Clarity. He's incredible.
Local.
Terran, Tasia, Zerg, Scarlet, MC, Protoss.
Hacks. None of those are Canadian.
Scarlet
Scarlet's
is.
Canadian?
Oh,
Zerg,
yeah.
Scarlet.
Oh, Mitchell didn't know that Scarlet was Canadian. It's now 4-3.
I did know that.
I know. It's still 4-3. I got to make it even. Come down to the final tiebreaker. Number 8. It's now 4-3 for Mitchell. Number 8. The hardest working person in esports.
Can't beat yourself.
That I know, Jacqueline Geller.
Jacqueline Geller.
I'm going to say Slasher, who's working for GameSpot right now.
Just to tie it up, 4-4. The point goes to Taylor. Even though I agree with the Canadian answer more. Number 9. Who will be the first Canadian player to win a GSL?
I don't think we know them yet.
Ooh,
I don't think we've heard of them.
mystical.
I don't think any of the main guys out there have it in them.
Taylor, rebuttal.
This is going to sound bad, but I don't think a Canadian player is ever going to win a GSL. That's what I feel. That's a
You're making it
terrible
hard
answer.
on yourself, Mitchell.
I know. Yeah.
Wow.
He's-
I like how you're being honest, though. So I'm going to give a half point to each, which means that we're tied. Oh, how did that happen? We are
How?
tied
How-
4.5.
That's never happened before. We
4.5
need a tiebreaker,
points.
John, have we planned for this?
This is ridiculous. The final question is actually, I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds each to berate the other city's hockey team. So, Taylor, you're going to be making fun of the Oilers, and Mitch, you're going to be making fun of the Leafs. So, Mitchell, you get to go first.
I think Mitch has the easier job, doesn't he?
Do I need to say anything? Well, just to toot our own horn a little bit, we do have the top 2 scoring in the AHL since NHL isn't going on. So just want to throw that out there. And I mean, the Leafs, really. The football team's pretty good, but I don't have anything to say to Toronto. I can't even think of any positive things, so it's hard to berate them. It's like kicking a dog.
Oh, snap.
Gloves are coming off.
It's brutal that it's Edmonton because they got such a stacked team of coming up young up and comers, man. I don't even know if I can bash you guys, but well, you have Taylor Hall. He's got a stupid female name. I don't know why you'd want him on your team. Neil Yakupov, Russians. Those are always problems. And you got a bunch of old guys that. When was the last? Well, 1990. You guys won a cup, so.
Yeah, don't do the when the last time you won a cup.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was
Yeah.
going to try to say something.
Do not
We won
bring that
more
up.
No, yeah, I don't even know if we have.
No, haven't.
I am a Leafs fan, but I love Canadian hockey, so I can't even bash the other team. So I'm just going to say, how about the NHL? NHL comes back soon, and we can watch everybody do battle. That's all I'm going to say.
It's a wash.
All right.
While John's
You
telling
were-
that up, I'll tell you guys a joke I heard.
I'll tell you right now that number 10, you were both wrong. The answer was Habs. So, Habs.
Oh, I could have bashed that team, so I should have been the option.
Nope, we praise that team because they are the only team. And I'll just tally up these results here.
I could have told my joke, John.
Tell the joke.
Okay, so I heard some guy said that when he dies, he wants the Leafs to be his pallbearers, so that they can let him down one last time.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good, huh?
-1
Alright,
for Frank.
score.
And we have, in true Canadian fashion, it is a tie. Everyone wins. If this was minor sports, everyone would get a little medal and or trophy. So congratulations, you both had 9. It's a good number, right? 9 points. Congratulations, guys! You survived the lightning round.
I think, like, for career records, we're way up there. Like,
Oh
sure
yeah.
nobody else has 9 points.
DDE and Azale have 12 each, and then
It's not out of 10. I thought it was out of 10.
hey.
The point, dude. Remember, Ken Silva has like minus 14 or something.
Just to be clear, the lightning round is bigger than all of us. I can't control it. No one here can control it. It just is, okay? 9 points each. Congratulations. That puts you in a solid tied for 3rd. So you're still in the running to come back for our Tournament of Champions at the end of the year, which isn't actually a real thing.
Yeah.
So, any last words from either of you before we sign off?
I guess I'll say just keep doing what you're doing with Esports Canada. I love it. And yeah, more events in Canada. Let's do it. See you guys later.
Right on.
Get more people. Spread across Canada. Don't just have Toronto guys. That's the only thing I have to say.
Thank you. I
Oh, man.
agree with those
Anybody
sentiments.
who's watching, like on that note, anybody who's watching who isn't in like a local area that's considered isn't from Toronto and stuff, please get in contact with us because we do want to grow and represent as much Canadian content nationally as possible. So, like I only got into this because Nick brought me in, and I'm like live near him, right? So sometimes it's your proximity that helps it out. So yeah, if you're from another area outside of Toronto and you want to roll under the Esports Canada banner, just get in contact with us because we'd love to add as much as possible and become a more robust Esports Canada.
Hear
Sorry,
that?
if you wanted to say more, go ahead. But I really did want to iterate that point because I think it is
No,
important.
that's exactly what I would have said.
Yes, email info@esportscanada.org if you are anywhere in Canada and want to get involved, whether it's modding our chat or streaming on our channel, or you want to provide content, edit the website, anything and everything. We are always looking for volunteers, and we always need help. And we have tournaments coming up this weekend, Barcrafts in Toronto, December 2nd for IPL. Tons of things going on. So, what, Frank?
Yeah, on our website you can find around, like, I know there's the Toronto one, but isn't there like a whole bunch around, Ken? Anyways, if you go to our website, you should be able to find
Yes.
it on our calendar.
Yep.
Not just the Toronto one, it's just that
I just know that's the one confirmed for IPL that I know of.
Ah, okay.
But December 9th as well for NASL, there's one in Victoria. And I think there's 1 or 2 more going on as well. But go to our calendar on our website, esportscanada.ca, and you can find those events or post events of your own, and we will help you promote them. We are pretty much out of time. I'd like to thank our guests, Taylor and Mitchell. They were fantastic. Huge lightning round scores, which we'd love to see. We have some more guests confirmed coming up. I talked to Jake Bake from Team 4 Not. I think he plays out of Montreal. He played in the Fiber Up Gaming League on the weekend, and he's going to be joining us sometime soon, as well as the team manager for Team LAG, or LAG. I'm not sure what that stands for, but he'll be joining us as well at some point. And Frank, who else do we have on the docket for guests?
Nick can actually tell us who's on next week. He knows them.
Yeah, next week we have Jonathan Wright, a CSL player from U of T. He recently posted on Reddit about how StarCraft 2 helped his brain from atrophying after he had a concussion. Right.
Cool. Did you know him before? The Reddit post?
Yeah, he was actually a friend of my roommate's. Just never knew he played StarCraft until this year. So
Cool.
yeah,
That's interesting. I saw that, and that was a really good read about how that kind of helped him get back into good health. So it'll be interesting to have him on the show. As well, at some point, we're going to have Nick So on. He's general admin, or the lead admin for the CSL League for League of Legends. As well, he works with Frag for Charity and Dalhousie Esports Society out of Halifax, so he'll be coming on the show at some point soon. And I'm sure Mike Daniels as well will be joining us again at some point to run it down with some information from the Fiber Up Gaming League, as well as the fighting game community all over the world. And maybe we'll have Vince from Toronto Top Tiers.
Yeah.
On
So many
soon as
good
well.
Canadians.
Yes.
It's going to be great, guys.
It's going to be super. Episode 15, man. That one's gonna be great.
Looking forward to
That's
it.
the
Thanks
one we're
so
gonna
much.
submit to the Emmys for the award show. You can only submit one episode. That's gonna be the one.
All right.
All right.
What was that non-vote of confidence, Nick? Screw you.
Thanks
All right.
so much, Mitchell and Taylor. It was really
No
awesome.
problem, guys.
Thanks, guys. Make sure to follow Taylor and Mitchell on Twitter at Hydrolis and at Mitch McP. You can follow Frank and Nick at ESC Jovian and at ESC Songers, and myself at Quinn of the Nets. Make sure to join us on our website, esportscanada.ca. Join the forums, join the conversation, and help out across Canada and promote esports. Follow us on facebook.com/esportscanada and on Twitter at esports_Canada. I forgot to queue up music, so I'm going to keep rambling until Monster Cat loads. Or we'll
Thanks
just go to
everyone for
break screen
watching.
and play
Thanks
the
everyone in
intro.
the chat.
Yes, thank you, chat. We love you. We'll be back next week. Same time, same esports
Hi,
channel.
chat.
Yep.